Hi everyone. I just thought I'd do this little video. I know there's a few different videos going around at the moment, but given we've only got a week left of the trade up offer, this video really is for you. Perhaps you've reached out and you've actually said, look, I am pretty keen, but I'm wanting to know more about the TM6 versus the current model you have, whether it's the TM31 or the TM5, or you're a person who's kind of wanting to see, maybe it is time for an upgrade. Maybe you would like to expand your repertoire or your journey with Thermomix. So I'm just going to actually switch it on. Obviously, if you've got a TM31, the actual machine itself is very, very different. And I really want to highlight, coming from a person who's been with Thermomix for over 11 years, I never personally thought I'd ever part with my TM31. I thought nothing really could compare. It's a bit like, some people go, oh, they don't make them like they used to. That kind of mentality where for so long my TM31 was my baby. I did everything. It was the first Thermomix I owned. And, I never thought the other models would come close to my original baby. Well, soon after I got the TM6, and this is giving you a hint that I kind of really probably would say, honestly, I didn't resonate with the TM5 like I have with the TM6, but that's another story. Not saying that it wasn't a good machine or didn't do its job. It just wasn't my TM31. However, when it came to the TM6, it really was wow. And so much so that I basically gifted on my TM31, which I thought I would never, ever part from. And so if you're one of these TM31 owners and you're been sitting on the fence going, oh, but the TM31 is the best, I can tell you now, move over to TM31. TM6 is here to stay. So firstly, obviously the screen is really good. And if anyone has had a TM31, their eyesight might be changing like my eyesight has changed because it's been a while, right? Well, I love it for that purpose. It's nice, big and bold, and you can probably see it. Let me see if I can. It's just the lighting at the moment. It's probably not too good, but that's okay. Is number one. The other thing is you've got literally one dial. You don't have one dial. You've got all your little hard press buttons, and every time you press a button, it makes a beep noise. And the big thing with obviously the TM31 is that the noise at the end, or the sound that the Thermomix makes when it lets you know it's done its job. You know how it used to keep going until you switched off the machine. You had the control to basically have that switch off in a few seconds after the cook has actually been done, which is really useful. And you can even change the tunes. But, that's a little addition. It's not something that you go, right, I'm going to go off and, upgrade the machine right now over. But there are reasons why I personally think the TM6 is definitely worth upgrading. Firstly, from a family point of view, is the bowl is bigger. And so is the baroma. The baroma is quite substantially larger. So the size of the chook that you can actually fit in that baroma bowl, especially if you're feeding a family, is a lot bigger. And you can really load up your vegetables and your goodies in your baroma more than in your TM31 bowl. And the other thing that's really good is given the design and the material, and especially the new MC that it comes with, a lot of that and the base, the sound difference between the TM31 and the TM6 when it's cooking is definitely or significantly quieter. Our little steamer basket has had an update. As you can see, it's got a guard, so no worries about overfilling that. You've got that all under control. One thing I like that Thermomix has stayed true to between all models is that the bowl and the way that we undo the bowl is exactly the same from the TM31, TM5 to the TM6. Now, this, however, has a different film, a different coating inside, because we can actually get up to temperatures of 160 degrees. Now, I've had some people, especially with the TM31 model, that say, well, maybe I shouldn't upgrade because I don't really utilize my Thermomix. Like, I use it, but I don't use it lots. I don't cook in it. I just do smoothies and I just chop things. I feel that with the TM6, you'll start doing more than just those little odd jobs of chopping things, smoothies, etc. The way that you've got your whole recipe platform on here, the way that even other family members can go along and cook, even if they've got no cooking abilities whatsoever. You know, my 11 autistic, 14-year-old and my 11 and 12-year-old can go on here and follow the steps and cook a whole meal for us, then, it shows that anyone can actually cook with the Thermomix. And I think at that point, if you're a TM31 owner, you're at that stage where you're now got teenagers, if you had little ones at the time, or you've got people who can take on that ability to help you out, give you a night off cooking. You kind of will find that kids will really gravitate and want to cook because it's like an iPad screen, and it gets them involved and makes them, not learn more about functionality or cooking in a whole. Don't diminish the fact that they're not learning life skills, because in essence they see the scales come up, they're looking at dry ingredients versus wet ingredients, they're getting familiarity with numbers, etc. So I do think, from a point of view, if you've got children, especially going through the primary, high school ages, a TM6 is a really good way to support their education and also support them in taking responsibility and doing their part in the home as well. Now, if there's just you or a loved one and you're thinking there's no need to upgrade because there's only two of you and you don't cook much, again, if you're not utilizing your Thermomix to its full potential, you are basically causing more work for yourself, right? Often people, as they get older, their children are moved out of home, they're just thinking, I can't be bothered cooking. I don't want to use all those, pans. I don't want to have all those dishes. The big difference with the new TM6 is we've got a pre-clean button. And I'll show you, there's 4 different modes. So depending on if you're doing caramels, browning, doughs, or just a universal clean. And this is a really good addition. And if anything, it's one of the reasons you should get a TM6, is because while you're putting the water and you're doing the pre-clean, it's giving you time to put away whatever food items you got out in the cook, cleaning down and getting the kitchen ready. It's giving you back that additional time. And that's one thing we all know with the Thermomix, we cannot put a price on time. Time is essential, and we want something that doesn't cause us a lot of exertion and can make life more smooth, especially at night where you might be fatigued or got something on or you're busy. Having a pre-clean, less dishes to do, and perhaps your previous consultant didn't really get to show you how to really make the most of your Thermomix from your cooking style. Often you go to demonstrations and you get shown certain demo dishes, and then you're left, and you might be a manual cook, or you might be a person who you just don't know quite how to adapt your recipes to the Thermomix. The TM6 makes it so much easier, because if, for instance, I wanted to make a lasagna, for instance, all I would have to do is go onto our recipe platform, type in lasagna, and even though it gives me choices of different varietals or different styles of lasagna, if I just press any one of those, I could then have my recipe, my own personal recipe, at the side of my machine, and I'm just following the same step process. And it's getting you to understand more on what functions, what speeds, what temperature, what weight to do things within your own personal recipe. Now, also, if there's only 2 of you and you're a meat and 3 veg person, the benefits are that, one, you can do it all at once. A lot of people don't realize you can cook your meat in the varoma because they've never utilized the varoma. All those nutrients, all those juices from your meat, your vegetables could be going in and flavoring that soup or flavoring that rice. And better yet, if you're cooking a soup and meat and 3 veg, a lot of these people, they can have soup for lunch the next day. They've already prepped the next meal for the next day. And if you're a meal prepper by any means, it's amazing. So, cooking your vegetables and loading it all up in there. And then I would be in some flavored water. I'd be cooking some quinoa or rice and leaving it in the fridge. So for my lunches during the day, I could add that to some of the steamed vegetables, and you're just reheating with some nice sauce. It's making your fridge work for you more, also making you utilize what you've already got rather than going out and buying something. Now, one thing, Monica just recently did a video on the comparisons between the models, and this is a big one. Generally, your cookbook's getting dirty, or you're looking at your cookbook and you're spending extra time trying to go from the cookbook to the machine. Then you've obviously then used to put on your scale button or your reverse button, or down on your TM5, your other buttons, where the beauty of the TM6 is it's just intuitive. It puts on the reverse, it puts on the scale. And obviously you got abilities of that within guided cook using your cook key. But if you don't have your cook key and you're not following those recipe chips, you don't have that ability either. One of the big highlights is the high temperature setting. Often, and particularly with men, they go, oh, but it doesn't brown meat, or, it doesn't get that caramelization. Well, you can get that in the TM6. And again, that's another feature that I would say with that feature alone, I would simply upgrade. Getting that really flavor out. The other night, some of you may have seen, I cooked a risotto, and it caramelizes or heats up the rice, so it's getting that nuttiness that you want from a really good risotto, where before you wouldn't get that real open up of the rice and get those toasty notes in your risotto. Sure, your risotto tastes good in your TM31, TM5. It just tastes magnificent in the TM6. So what else can I show you? So other things that are really good is we can plan our week. So if you're time poor and you're really needing to get onto time management a little bit better, and what's really fun, you can do this on your iPad or your phone, and sometimes with your kids, if they're impatient and you're at an appointment or what have you, you go, right, I want you to put some meals into our recipe week, so get them involved, especially if you've got fussy eaters. If they're choosing the meals and they're trying the meals or they're cooking the meals, they're going to actually eat things that probably before they were a little bit hesitant to do because they've had involvement there. So that's a really good one. Also, with the saving of the week, you've also got bookmarks. So if you forget to save, you could just put it into your bookmarks for the day. You could put it in a cook today mode. You've got your shopping lists. And if you're a big fan of click and collect, you can even get Woolworths to basically have your shopping list go to Woolworths and merge there. The shopping list in itself, rather than you having to handwrite it, if you've done it all on your machine, all you need to do is have your phone out with the cookie dough, or you can print out on your notes, or like print out on a piece of paper your shopping list if you still want to be with paper type of shopping list. But at least it's always on you when you're on the move. So you don't even have to be at home. So if you're headed out the door and you've forgotten that shopping list, don't worry, your app's there. You can open it up and you can see the ingredients. You can see your shopping list, just make the shopping list for you. What I also love is the recently cooked functionality, because often sometimes if you've been a bit late this year or a bit busy and you haven't actually saved it into a collection or bookmarked it, you can always go back and find that recently cooked one. And the new feature on here is created recipes. So you personally can put, whether it's your grandmother's or yours or your mother's or your kids' most favorite meal that you've modified and adapted and changed to the different, to what it was previously, you can actually save that on your machine as well. So on mine, if I go to my recipes and I go to created recipes, just waiting for it to come up, I put my washing powder recipe, so I don't have to have, I used to have a little sticky note and that kept falling down on the side of my kitchen every time I have to make a new batch of washing powder. I've actually got it there. And then I've got my famous compost cake, which all my kids love, which I make from my food, veggie scraps. I've got that there as well. But I'll certainly be adding more recipes along the way in regards to that. Now, the other things too with this is, from a software point of view, if you remember, Thermomix only generally, on average, introduce a new machine every 10 years, which I'm very thankful for. Like, you just go and buy yourself an iPhone and the next model's out, right? And it's a bit frustrating. The benefits of the TM6 is, since the, like 2 years ago when we first brought out the TM6, different modes have actually been added onto the machine without you having to upgrade or purchase a new Thermomix. There is always software updates. So it does its own little self-care. It's almost like when you go and take your car for a service. It basically will do those software updates inside. And sometimes, I've never personally had to, for many years, ever take my machine to get serviced. But if in the event that there was something that went wrong with your Thermomix, it's great that they can actually hook on online and have a look before you having to send it off to a service area. They can see that maybe it can be just self-corrected remotely. So that is, in itself, is a wonderful addition, and that's part of our Cookie Do annual subscription. And the Cookie Do subscription, if you think about it, we started off with 42,000 recipes on the recipe platform. We are now at 79,000 recipes, and it's forever evolving. So you'll never have to buy a cookbook again, but me, I always still can find a place for a cookbook. But if you're needing to justify your subscription, if you think about it, the first 6 months are free, and then it's $69 a month. That literally would be the cost of 2 cookbooks, hardcover cookbooks, paper, use, environment friendly, you name it. And you're actually seeing recipes from all different countries and nationalities. And the benefit of that is sometimes we get so familiar with a seasonal produce, like say zucchinis, for instance, that we only cook them a certain way. And if they're in season and we get them in abundance, we want to be able to make other things with that zucchini. And sometimes looking at these other nationality recipes gives us recipe ideas we've never even thought of. Maybe put it in a sweet versus a savoury. You wouldn't think to do something like that, and you might be a little bit surprised by the results. So when you're wanting just simple meals, it still is a lot better that it switches on, it switches off itself. It doesn't stop chiming like the older one. And, you could at the last minute choose a recipe. If you're feeling unmotivated, it's a lot easier to think, what am I going to cook for tonight? So This isn't like your normal typical, what are the differences between the Thermomixes. I'm saying more like from a benefit point of view of how you can see how it's evolved and why it stands apart more than the TM5 or the TM31. My personal opinion is the TM31 was a fantastic entry point. It was very basic, but it was the first introduction to multifunctional cooking. Let's put it out there. The TM5, I do think if they had just held off a couple more years and waited for the interface of the internet connection, it would have, you know, gone from the TM31 straight to the TM6. I think would have been a more option. But it's not to say the TM5 doesn't work. It's just it needed that extra overall functionality to go. And like I said, we've got new modes. We're going to be getting more modes on the machine as we go along. So it's always exciting when there's an update done. And sometimes they even update the recipes if they, after a while, through trial and error, think, no, that recipe could be a little bit different. They'll tweak it and update it for you on the machine as well. So if you're wanting a one-on-one virtual, wanting to get some questions and answers answered for you, I'm more than happy to assist in that regard. But I just wanted to give you a little bit more insight and maybe from a different perspective of the benefits of a TM6. Okay, bye.